was saying after the game that he still feels like he's a lot better thrower and just kind of had an off night. What did you see from him?
Yeah, there's no doubt. I got a ton of belief in him. I mean, I think a little bit of it was the whole, as a whole, we were a little off with our passing game. And give San Jose State some credit. They did a really good job mixing up looks, which was good. But, you know, when you take a guy like Sammy, on Thursday we decided we're going to hold him. So now we put Melvin in a different spot. And you got Tony and you got guys in different spots. And you're used to throwing timing with certain people. You can be a half a yard or a yard off on something, and that's going to make all the difference in the world. He missed a few throws. He's got a hit. A couple times we had some pressure in his face you can't have. And then a couple times we should have caught the ball. So it's as a whole, we got to be a little cleaner and a little crisper, but I'm not concerned at all because I've seen him do it all fall camp. So.
How did you grade out, Rhett?
Huh?
How did Nick grade out?
Nick graded out okay. Obviously the fumble is, that was by far the most disappointing thing, and for him personally, because we worked on it, we harped on it, and you know, he broke that last tackle at the 5, and I think relaxed, didn't think anybody else was there, and you can't do that. And that was huge momentum killer to start the game. You know, you're about to be up 7-0 quick, and instead, you know, all the momentum shifts, and so that was the most disappointing thing. You know, I think the decisions were really good. He made really good decisions. Other than that play, you know, protected the football well through the air, but that's got to be cleaned up, and he knows that.
You mentioned some of the passes that could have been made or catches that should have been made. On Little Rock, he throws into triple coverage for Ricardo.
Oh, okay.
And instead of going to Duke over the middle, when that's a decision that.
What play now? He never threw into triple coverage in the game.
With Ricardo on Little Rock, it looked below the 3 defenders.
We didn't run a Little Rock play on Saturday, and he never threw into triple coverage. He underthrew a deep one-on-one post one time that Ricardo made a play for, but really Ricardo could have leaned the route a little better, and he's got to throw it out in front of him. But I'm not familiar with the play we were talking about.
Rhett, you're at all surprised? I mean, Gus last night answered a question from a fan describing Nick's as regressing. I mean, it seems like Nick is getting a lot of criticism, whether undo or do. Are you at all surprised by that as a senior?
No, because I think when you're a senior, you're returning, the expectations are high. Some people say Heisman, some people say this and whatnot, and you know, a lot's been made of it all off season long. So obviously that's the only thing anybody cares about. Nobody cares about the fact that 59 points were put on the board, and when he was in, other than the fumble of the first 6 drives, touchdowns were scored. Nobody looks at that. You know, we got to, and that's a good thing because that's how we are as coaches. We look what can be better. But hey, he knows playing Kansas State, he's got to play better. The wideouts got to play better. The line, the running backs, everybody does. And we're going to have to make a lot of plays in the passing game. And we feel like we can do it, and we just got to go out and prove it.
You know, you talk a little bit about the recruiting battle there at Kansas State to get Nick. Obviously, this game would look a lot different if Nick was on the other sideline. What do you recall about that in the interaction?
Not a whole lot other than, I knew him being out in Kansas, and they recruit a lot of junior college kids. He was obviously in the mix for them. But I think at the end of the day, it just Auburn's where he wanted to be. We're closer to home. And I'm not going to get into too much detail on the recruiting process, but I know that was a potential stop for him, and we're certainly glad he's on our side next week.
Now, you guys were trying to get him when you were at Arkansas State, right?
Yeah, we were.
And you kind of thought that was a pie in the sky at that point, right?
We did, yeah. Well, we had Ryan Applin was our quarterback. We knew he was a senior going to be leaving, and we had just signed a true freshman the year before, but we weren't sure if he'd be ready, so we were looking for a junior college quarterback. We were familiar with Nick when we were at Auburn the first time when he was coming out. He ended up going to Georgia. We knew who he was. So I'd actually gone down to his high school and looked in the summer and talked to his coach. We'd gone to his junior college, and then of course he started getting all the Kansas States, the Texases, and all those people offered him. So we were out of luck at Arkansas State, so we had to change locations.
How did the offensive line, did they progress from week 1 to 2?
I think so. Greg Robinson, you got to give him a lot of credit at San Jose. They had a really good plan, and they really made us earn everything. And they made us grind out drives, which was really good for us to be in that position because we didn't have as many explosive plays against San Jose as we did against Arkansas. Right. And it's tough to do when you got to grind out and keep converting on 3rd down and be patient. I thought our line did good because they did a lot of movement and things, and we're still light years away from where we want to be. But I think there was slow, steady progress. Kansas State's a lot like that. I mean, they're going to really make you earn it and make you, kind of grind out drives. So it was good that we had a game like that.
What do you get? Given that, I mean, last night.
We both lost.
Gus also said that the offensive line, some of the Nick issues were pressure. And
Yeah.
it was kind of,
We did have two, one we were in a max protection, another one a play pass protection that really they didn't blitz. We had plenty of people and we kind of, one of them we didn't stay square enough. We let a guy split us. It was the one to CJ that ended up kind of being behind him. And, you know, Nick threw it earlier than he normally would. It was coming open. It would have been an easy laid-in touchdown for CJ, and he had to turn it loose early. Ended up being back shoulder, and we didn't make the play. And then another one we actually completed the deep one to Duke early in the game on our sideline. I mean, he made a really good throw with someone in his face. And those are just, you know, protection things we got to shore up to make it as clean as possible.
They said they expect the biggest crowd ever
Yeah.
at Kansas State Thursday night. How much does that kind of atmosphere, the noise and all that, affect the offense, the quarterback in particular?
I mean, it definitely affects you. Fortunately for us, Nick's played. A lot of our guys have played. We don't have a young team, and it's like going into any hostile SEC environment. All I've heard is that, you know, Manhattan's the toughest place to play in the Big 12. So we know we really got to be focused. You know, we've been fortunate. We haven't had any false start penalties the first two games. Your attention to detail and your awareness really has to raise its level when you're on the road in a hostile environment. And I think it'll be really a good measuring stick to see where we're at, because now we're going on the road in a place where they've sold it out because you're the one they're wanting to knock off. And boy, they got a good football team. It's not the situation we were in last year. So how mature are our guys? How do we handle it? Because, you know, we've been preaching to them already these last 2 days. We have to execute at a very high level, because the way they play, they're very sound. They tackle well. They don't beat themselves. They don't give up big plays. They make you earn everything you get, and that's why they've been so successful. So we've got to execute very, very well.
What do you notice about Corey and just what he does after contact? He seems to be only absorbing the hits, but picking up some good yards.
Yeah, Corey, you know, for a guy that fast, usually those guys are trying to get out and get out of bounds. And boy, he loves to finish runs. And Tim's done a great job with his backs, but you see him and Cameron really finishing runs. But for Corey, he's ran in between the tackles more in these first two games than he has, and he's finishing downhill, and he's not dancing, which is really good. So I mean, I think you've seen that he's really developed as an overall running back.
How different is Cameron these first couple of games? What have you seen out of him? Because he looks like he's able to get to the edge a little bit more.
I think he's quicker. He lost, I'm going to say he lost probably around 8 pounds, give or take, probably from last year. So I think he's quicker. And, you know, he's showed some moves to not just run people over, but, you know, cut the inside shoulder and make a guy miss in space last week, which was really good. I mean, you couple that with his ability to finish downhill behind his pads, I think that's just him developing into a better all-around back. Been really pleased.
1 week ago, the issue with the third shorts early on in the game was something that you and Gus were both pretty disappointed with. This week, really not an issue. Do you attribute that to things and corrections that were made on the line, or is that in part just because of the sheer size and skill advantage you guys had?
I don't know. I mean, I hope we've corrected those issues we had in the first game. And a lot of credit goes to Arkansas. They made some plays, but we still could have done some things better on the back end of those plays. And you know, we were better against San Jose. I don't know how much attributed to just our, you know, advantage as opposed to our execution, but we did execute better on third and short. We didn't have any issues there. And really, overall, we've executed well on third downs in the first 2 games. That's got to continue, especially on the road. But we were very pleased with the way our third downs were.
How big is this week? I mean, obviously, any off week, you have a chance to kind of go back and work. But after a couple of games,
Yeah.
it's a big learning time anyway. How important is this week for you guys?
It's big early in the year because you play, you know, 1 or 2 games, so you've got a good feel for the new personnel. You got a feel for how this team's coming together, because it's still a different team than last year. And it gives us a chance to try to have everybody as healthy as they can be, even though we want to play 2 games. But really work on, you know, the direction we think we're going to go. You look at this time last year, we just come off the LSU game, 3-1. We had a week to kind of regroup, refocus, and I think that week's where we really made a lot of progress and got better. Now, Ole Miss game, we didn't play phenomenal, but we played better and we won, and then we just kind of got better each week after that. So that's what we've been preaching to our guys. This is the week we got to win. We don't play anybody, so a lot of people don't want to practice. We got to win these 3 days and get much, much better at the details and the execution of things, to where, you know, it helps us not only next week, but games on down the road after that. So I think it's huge for us.
Brock said that he kind of sees himself right now sort of doing what Corey does a little bit.
Yeah.
Is that kind of where you see him too?
He's kind of in between, you know, but he definitely has good speed and great quickness, and so he can do a lot of the things Corey can do. you know, I think over time he'll get in the weight room and he'll get bigger and but he's still an every down back right now. But at the same time, he's a true freshman. He's in the SEC. Just now got his feet wet. You know, Peyton and Cam are bigger guys, so it's just kind of the way their roles, the way they can kind of fit if a guy goes down is a little more Rock fits a little more behind Corey than say a Peyton Barber would. So that's fairly accurate.
What you talked about the guards, Avery moving inside, how he's doing, and Chad how he's doing on the left side.
I think overall doing very well. It took Avery probably about 10 days in fall camp, and then you could tell he finally got adjusted, and then it was just like a light came on night and day. I mean, he's so athletic, and he's doing really well. Same thing with Chad. I don't think it's as much of an issue of where they're at. They just got to continue to get used to working with the guys. You know, Avery and Pat are working together a lot of times, and Chad and Sean are. You know, they always work with Reese on stuff on the inside, but there's a lot to that. I mean, last year you had Greg and Kozan always working together. You know, you got to where it was always Chad and Avery, so you get continuity there. And that's something that'll get better each week, I hope. But overall, been very pleased with the way they've transitioned.
What have you noticed about Kansas State's defense on film? They seem pretty disciplined. They kept them in a lot of games last season, this year.
A couple things stand out. One, when they play teams that offensively have been doing well, they do not near as well at Kansas State. You look at Baylor last year, OU, all those teams, they go in there and they score considerably less amount of points than they did before heading into that game. Now, I think that's just a great tribute to the way they coach. They're very simple, but they're very sound. They're not out of gaps. They're not out of position. They play as hard as any defenses I've seen play on film since we've been here. I mean, they got 11 guys that are completely crazy going to the football, and that makes up for a lot of things. But once again, they want to make you drive the whole field. And, you know, there's a lot of times as an offense, it's hard to execute without a false start, without a turnover, without a drop pass, without a bad throw, without a missed assignment. Over time, the odds go in their favor the longer the drive goes if you don't have explosive plays. And I think that's what they've been able to do, really limit explosive plays and make people earn it. And I think that's what made them really good. And so that's why, once again, we've got a big challenge ahead, you know.
Two more. Rhett, do you have any kind of update on Sammy? Did he make it out back to practice today? What's he doing? Yeah,
Sammy's doing well, and we feel really good that he'll be back pretty soon.
Could he have played Saturday if you really needed him?
We didn't have to go there, so I don't know, but I'm optimistic.
All right, thanks, Rhett.